So my topic today is about the configuration management. So I believe everybody have some business logic to manage. So hopefully it will be inspiring. So I apologize for my English and maybe the connection. This is my first topic talk in English, so it might be not so good, but yeah, I'm so glad here. So okay, here we go. This isn't so fancy as maybe somebody expected it, but it's just some. I think it's an adventure of a journey, an adventure I made during the last few months. Yeah, I had an idea and turned it to a practice and to check how it works. So I want to share the experience here. Okay, so a little about myself. This is my GitHub and Twitter account, and I'm a father and a husband. Also, I'm a full stack web developer. Before working on Elixir, I worked on Ruby on Rails and basically JavaScript and React and CSS. Yeah, I love front end developing and also functional programming. I used to work in Alibaba for 7 years, maybe. So yeah, after that I joined some startups. Now I'm working in Zubla, which is a US company, and their business focus in the Latin America. They produce some service to the retailer brands like Walmart, Chanel, and those local e-commerce companies to help them to get the ability to for e-commerce. So briefly saying, Zubla is a crowdsourcing platform working for multiple retailer clients. The business domain is, yeah, in brief review is like this. So our clients will create some tasks in our platform, and our user will take those tasks and fulfill them. Likely they will deliver the items in the store to the customers who order those items. So imagine you place an order in Walmart, and we will let our users to deliver the items to you, to your home. But yeah, mostly, and we will pay the users for each order, and the amount is quite flexible. And if we zoom in the domain model, we can see that each task is our core domain concept, and each user can take the task, and each task is belonging to a store, and each store belongs to the brand, one brand. And there's a time window for each task, because when you want to receive your item in time, right? So there is a delivery end of the window, and of course there is a start of the delivery window. So our user will deliver the task between these two timestamps, which we call cycle. Oh, sorry, forgive me. So this is called delivery window, but there's also a cycle. Cycle is not it's not the delivery. It's something we computed based on the delivery window. So we'll talk about that later. So what my point is that we have the diversity of business rules, because we have different levels of business rules, like on the task type for picking and the delivery, or even picking and the delivery. And we have store level of rules. We have different stores, and we also have different clients or brands. And we have several countries, so they are different. So this is naturally different, very from each level of different domain things context. Yeah, and also we often do soft launching. So our features will likely be starting at some store, and we tested it. If everything goes well, we expand them to more stores or more brands, and finally we have got we reach out to a list of stores, a list of brands. So it's like feature flags. So let's look at the cycle rule. As I said, we have a delivery window. This is determined by the clients. So the clients will send us the data. Like for this order, we need to deliver between these two timestamps, and we will compute a cycle which will allow the shopper or the users to see the requests. During these timestamps, our users are able to take the orders, take the deliver order, and we have we use MongoDB to store the task data. So this is typically a structure of task. Yes. And here's an example rule. So like it looks like this. For this brand named Wang, and for any store under this brand, the cycle starts as the beginning of the day of the deliver window start time, and the cycle ends at the end of the day of the deliver end time. So we have like I said, we have two timestamps inside the deliver window, and we computed the cycle with start and cycle end. But for Q, let's say it's a brand, and it's more complex. For the normal stores, we compute as this formula. However, for this particular store, we want to adjust it the cycle start 1 hour earlier. So that's 4 hours minus the delivery start time. And for the end of the cycle, it may be the same as others. So yeah, it's a quite a typical but simplified case of the formula, the business rule. So we have plenty of those rules. Okay, so how do we represent this rule, business rule? Our first attempt is quite straightforward. We can present this rule in a function in Elixir. So it's quite straightforward. As you can see, we can use pattern matching to describe the rule. So okay, let's use this pattern matching to against the requester. So if those brand is Wang, and we can just calculate the cycle as this formula. And if the brand is Q, and when the store ID in this list, we can compute it like this. And for any other pattern under brand Q, and we can just use this formula. I think this is maybe this at the beginning looks quite like a mess, but actually the logic here is quite straightforward. And using pattern matching, we have I think it's quite expressive. So when we need to maintain this rule, it's quite easy. Oh, I forgot to say, here we use some helper functions like subtract and add. It's actually a helper and some helpers. So we define some time helper, and the add we just delegate it to date time and beginning of the day. Yeah, we can to simplify, we can just ignore the time zone, just to let it to be the beginning and end of the day. Yeah, I think this is quite straightforward. So this was our actual version 1. We hard code the the formula, the function in the code. So it works. It's very easy to implement, and it's very easy to maintain when we want to add some new rules with the same range of variables. If the new rules follow the same pattern, if there's no new variables we are using, it's very easy to just follow, copy and paste. And it's very easy to extend because it's just inside of the code. So if we want to add new variables, it's very easy to modify this function. However, it's very costly to change. So whenever we want to change, we will need to change the code, the module, and we will do a self QA process maybe, and we will do deployment, and we need to restart the servers. The whole process is very slow. And I think the most important thing is that developers need to switch between projects. So I have to stop the current project I'm working on just to make some changes to the rule. So definitely it's not an ideal way. Yeah, we can make a better version of it. So on version 2, we extracted those function into configurable environment variables. So like this, we will configure our app, the key cycle formula, and this could be a string, because if it is string, we can inject it from the system variables. So that can be configurable outside of the application. And inside the code, we can use code.eval string, which is provided by Elixir. We can eval this code, and you can just provide the object. Notice that it's slightly different than before. So inside this function, we provided just a quest object, variable argument, right? Yes, it's an argument. So we will pen match again this argument. But here, for code eval string to work, we need to provide a binding, a list. It's like keyword list. And also we need to pass the environment structure, which is it's like this. I think yes, it's macro.ev for information. So you can provide a list of functions here. It looks like tedious, but it's actually very simple on the hood. So yeah, that's how it works. If we can extract the function as a string. So to ease the work, I developed a library called Formula. It's basically does the same thing here, but there are some additional features like sandboxing. We can limit the execution time and or memory usage. Also, we can disable some danger functions or some side effect functions by default. So that's quite it's like a sandbox, so you can safely use it. But still, it's the same solution here. So how does it work? I think this version is much easier to maintain because so now we don't need to change the code. We just need to change the environment variables. So that means we can employ some tools like Helm to update without modifying the code. It's much safer, or maybe not safer. It's much easier, much faster, a little faster. So we don't have to check out the branch, make a change, create a pull request, and deploy. So the whole process will be shortened, but it's still not that good. It's not close to an ideal solution. Because developers still need to switch contents between projects. And I think one thing is that since we don't have the QA process and we just change the variables on the fly, there's no validation changes. So if I mistakenly enter some incorrect variables, maybe the whole program will, yeah, they will be maybe not able to boot. So not good. Before making improvement to that, I want to just add a side sub problem here. Actually, there's another thing. In this version 1, we are directly calling the function in the Elixir module, which is very fast. But in this version, we are using code eval string. And do those two methods have performance difference? The answer is yes. Actually, they are maybe hundreds of times slower than before. So this is an interesting problem. Can we make it faster using the same approach? I tried to compile this function string OAST to back to Elixir module. I want it to be like this compiled when it is compiled. So inside here we have the function, and we will wrap the function a module and a function run, and we can what I wanted is to keep this formula as simple as possible. I don't want to the user to declare the variables like JavaScript. I think there must be a way to extract the variables given the AST. So here we can automatically inject those keyword.fetch. So here we have a sub problem extracting the used variables given a piece of code. Actually, this is, turns out this is not first I'm not the first one to have this problem. There was an Elixir forum thread here. So there's someone asking for find out unbound variables in the AST. So actually, I pasted my solution there, and it's very interesting problem. I agree. I think if you are interested, you are welcome to to read that thread. I'll keep it this short here. So what we want to do is to have this piece of code, and we get their name here. So we want to get the requester. Okay. Actually, I tried 2 attempts. First one is using parsing. Just I go through I think you collect. Yeah, I go walk through the AST. So and in the meantime, I maintain the scope. So this document is also very helpful. It's not very difficult because Elixir is very simple. There's only a few of instructions creating the scope. So whenever we have a new scope instruction, we will we will create a new scope and put the variable there. Yeah, it's quite simple. And it's not an easy way because maybe this is a moving part because Elixir may change the specification, and in the later new version of Elixir, it may be broken. So that means if I use this approach, I have to update my code to catch up with the recent change of Elixir. So that is out of the scope. Yeah, so also Jose Valin said that it's very difficult in practice because it's also it's not perfect because there are there are other edge cases if you define a macro inside the code, so it's not supported. Yes, so it's not perfect and only works for this library only. So there's another hacky way actually. So I don't like it, but it works very good. So actually I can use Elixir compiler to do the job for me. So I will try to first compile the AST. If the raise and compile arrow and the arrow message is unbind variables, I can extract the variable name and put it into a list and inject the variable definition and compile it again to see if there's any other compile arrow. And fortunately, if it works, then we are good at the final solution. And if it doesn't, we just repeat the flow. And yeah, it's quite hacky, but it works. And there are some, of course, there are some disadvantages using this approach, but it's a very interesting way. Okay, there's another problem, but I think that's much easier. It's just how do we create the module dynamically? It's very, I think it's a quite simple problem because Elixir provides us the ability to create the module dynamically, and the macro ability is so powerful. So it doesn't take much time. So here I use module create and some import using environment macro.env, which helps a lot. So this is very simple. So what do we get from this version? Version 2.1. So we have some performance improvements, hopefully 500 times faster than the Evo. And the DSL, we still keep it very minimal. So we don't have to declare the variables. But still, we don't change this situation. It's not close to an ideal solution yet. So there, I came to the next version 3, using the function in the code by getting the function from a central location. What if we make a service to manage the business rules? And in the service, we can do a lot of validations. We can, store the code as string in the database, and we can have versions of the code. The developers need to maintain the content of the code, and the service can do some validation. And if there's any change, you can push the change to the client side, which resides in the application. So the application Elixir modules can call either the code string or the compiled Elixir module. How does that work? I think, you made a proof version, a proof of concept for that. Okay, I think here, let me show you a demo about it. So here I have a notebook. I created a library for it called Formula Client, and the server, I call it Formula Server. So Formula Client, here's help function we defined, and here we got a list of requests or tasks. They are the same. And we start the Formula Server. No, we don't have to start the Formula Server yet. Let's start the client first. So for the client, we need to specify the URL of the server and the formulas we want to get from the server. So here the first element in the tuple is the module name, what will be compiled to the module. Okay, the second argument is the name of the formula or the configuration. So this third one is the help function. So that means which functions inside this module can be used in the formula. And also there's an optional configuration called client name, which will let the server know who is consuming this formula. Okay, so it doesn't start because I haven't started the server. So let me start the server, mix feed server. Okay, it crashed because I haven't created it yet. Let's see what is happening. Okay, so it's not right. Okay, as you can see, if there's anything goes wrong, we can't start the client successfully. So let me prepare the data first. I'm going to create a cycle project. Okay. Where's here? I'm going to copy this function here. Can save. Okay, now here we have a configuration, or I call it formula. So the name is cycle, and we have one revision, and there's no consumers online. Now let's start the client again. Oops, what happened? I think we need to reconnect it. All right, so it starts. Here the log, and we can see that formula client join the channel cycle, and it gets the formula, the function from the server. Exactly. So we can use it. So here for each quest, we will use this function formula.client eval cycle. This is formula name, and we provide the data quest here. Because the formula has been compiled to the Elixir module, right? So we can also use the module directly. What is the module? So here we can also use .run because we defined a function called run, right? So here, this is also acceptable. So, but basically, I'll use this format because it accepts some other parameters to limit the execution. But right now, let's keep it here. So let's see how it works. Okay, so for each request, I'm returning the brand, the store ID, and okay, let's print the delivery window here. Okay, so first the delivery window here is 13 and the 18. Okay, the cycle ends at the end of day, but plus 48 hours. Let's check it with the formula. So for 1, it's beginning of the day, and it's end at the end of the day. which is correct. They are on the same day. Good. So for this brand Q, and if the store ID is 2040, it should be 4 hours before this delivered start time. So here should be 4 hours. Yes, correct. 4 hours ahead of the delivery window start time. And for the cycle end, yeah, it's the end of the day plus 2 days. Good. And for any other stores in for brand Q, is 3 hours ahead of the delivery window startup. Yeah, it's correct. So it works. And what if we wanted to make a change to it? So let's say I want this store to be maybe 5 hours ahead of the time. So we can change it and we can review it. If everything goes well, we can use the version. We can use it. Okay, so now it's the current version. Also, we can switch back to the previous versions. And here we can see the online consumers. So we know there's one node of live book clients, demo clients here consuming this formula. Okay, so now we have updated the function, right? And we can run the code again. All right, so here should be 5 hours ahead of the time. Yes, it changed. So without doing anything, the logic inside this application has changed according to the new version of the configuration. So that's how it works. All right, so as you can see, I think the here we can smoothly configure the application without restarting, and it happens really fast. It's instantaneous change applied to the application. So no more deployments, no more environment variables injections. You just need to change the functions on the server. And this brings us a lot of opportunities. And first, I think we have the opportunity to model the configuration. And basically, we can think about the configuration function. Those are a piece of code, right? But we can break them into branches. So maybe potentially we can model the whole configuration into branches. With each branch, we have some condition and the expression. And also, we can do some visualization, or we can do some process modeling. I mean, BPM or other thing based on the code. We can describe the configuration not in a function, but in some other language. But they will be compiled to the function ultimately. And also we have the revisions of the configuration. And we can roll out and roll back quickly. And there's an opportunity that we can reason about the changes. So we know who and when the configuration changed. And yeah, we can do some validation, use clients and the historical data to validate the new version. Okay. So that's how it works for now. And here's something I want to keep on working during the way. So I would add the user authentication and then authorization to the formula server so that we can know who changed it. And yeah, we can have some security limitation on that. And also, as I said, revision validator. This is not done yet. And yeah, visualization, especially with some process modeling. Some people like to use BPM but there are other good solutions there, so we can employ them. And also I want to open source when we have done most of it. So for now we have open source Formula core and Formula client, and the server is not ready yet. So that's the current state, and I'm going to keep on working on that. So my main point here to take away here is, yeah, we love functional programming. So this is an adventure that we treated the configuration as functions. So yeah, because function is, these pure functions are very small and expressive, and especially in Elixir. Elixir itself is very expressive and productive. So it's a practice using Elixir as a DSL directory. And yeah, so it makes configuration very powerful, the function very powerful. And I learned that strings can be compiled into Elixir modules dynamically. So this is an interesting way. We have the string in the database, but we can compile them back into Elixir modules without changing, without restarting the server. So this is really, really neat feature of Elixir and Erlang. And yeah, configuration management in an interesting domain. Yeah, I think this is a very interesting domain, managing the business rules. So this is not only about how to compile the code, how to make the performance, how to use the configuration in Elixir. It's all about how to manage the configurations, how to move the responsibility outside of the code and outside of the developers, and empower the operation team. So this is a very interesting domain. Yeah, we are very excited about the features in the roadmap. So ideally, I think we will allow the operation team to manage the configuration ultimately. So hopefully, by the next few months, we'll have more things come out. So I'm glad to share the work I have done yet. It's not completed, but I would like to hear some feedback from you, and to see if there's any idea I can learn. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity today, and thank you everyone. Is there any questions?
Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself if you've got any questions for Qiu, and if possible, also turn your camera on. That'd be awesome.
Hi, Qiu. This is a very nice talk and very interesting. Thank you for your talk. I do have some questions. Say, if you put all the business logic in as a string inside the database, say, how do you write a text? Because you're not writing it normally with a code, and business logic is important, right? You probably need to have several use cases to verify the business rule you define. And how do you guarantee in production, say you save a string into a database, and then you are sure that the business logic is correct before you apply to the client, provide to the client side?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think there are two levels of testing. The first level is the unit testing. So how do we do that in the unit testing? Right now, there's no libraries, no modules to help do that. We just connect to the formula server and get the formula, and we keep on the logic. So that means it's like a database. So you can you fetch the configuration from the database, and you check your code to see if it goes well. yeah, this has some side effects. So let's say you change the configuration on the server, maybe that will break your testing, right? So maybe your CAI will be broken because of that. So we are planning to add the tester support in formula client. So you can just specify the formula when you are testing. So you don't have to get that from the server. That will make things easier. This is I think that is the unit testing level of the testing. And for production, yes, you make good point. Yeah, it's very important to validate that. Right now, we only validated that is the correct Elixir code. Say if here you have something wrong, it doesn't compile, so it would have some warning, you can't save it. And this is currently the only validation. So, but I think, yeah, what if I write something wrong here? I can still save it, but in the client side, the code is providing quest, not quest 2, right? So that will break the application. How do we prevent that? Currently, we don't. Like I said, we are going to do some validation about it. How do we do the validation? I think I have, no, I don't have it. So I have a picture of the architecture. I think the idea is to validate the new version with the code and the data. And that can't guarantee you 100% of correctness, but it will help a little. Then wait a minute, let me show you the diagram formula. Yes, here. Okay, so on the server, we have a configuration and we have different revisions. And on the client side, we have a client. And whenever there's a new change, a new revision generated, we can call the client, providing the new version. And the client holds the history data, right? Whenever we run the formula eval, we can save the data. Yeah, we can randomly choose some, or we can have some algorithm doing that. So anyway, we have the data and we have the new version of the code. And here we can do some new configuration pre-validated. And if it works, we can apply it. Otherwise, we can send the message to the server, hey, your new version doesn't work with with the data. So I think that's a plan. I have it in my mind.
That's good. I probably have another question. Maybe I haven't. Maybe I didn't understand fully. Say, will you consider more interaction between your server and the client? Because say you pretty much just put your hard-coded config from the version 1 into your final version in the database. Say, if you in the case you only have 2 brands, right? What happens? Say you have 1,000 brands in your client, and then say in your business logic you need to fetch say all the brands in the client and do something about it in the business logic. Say, I'm not sure. Is it possible for your server to fetch information from the client, say give me all the brands, and then maybe do some logic about it, or everything happen on the client side?
I think the principle here is to let the client do all the jobs. The server only manages the code, the functions. So one thing I did is that I tried best to not let the client to rely on the server. So whenever the application has started, I mean the server, the client. So if the server goes down, the client will not be affected. So because the function has been transferred to the client. So if the server goes down, they can use the compiled Elixir module. So that makes the applications working not relied on the server. So the server can be very lightweight. So yeah, I think we can have more interaction between the server and the client, but that only happens when you are managing, you're changing the configuration. So whenever the change has been done and the logic has been transferred to the client, I think yeah, we are going to, yeah, it's your feature you mentioned, the feature you mentioned is actually, I think it's allowed because we enable you inject a module, you inject your own functions in that function. So you can write any functions to let it used in the configuration. So that's very extendable. However, I recommend not use calling some function with side effects, because if it is a pure function, so we can get a certain output from a certain input, that would be very good for a configuration. Otherwise, I don't know, maybe it works, but maybe not a very good idea. I'm not sure that answers your question.
Yes, very, very promising project. Thank you for your talk.